Welcome to the show. In an era of cheap sensors, AI analytics, and network data, automated license plate readers, or ALPRs, right? Automated license plate readers, from companies like Flock Safety, promise faster crime solving, reduced human bias, and faster communities, or safer communities, sorry. Yet they also create detailed movement histories of everyday drivers, raising questions about data retention, hot lists, mission creep, and whether local tools quietly become nodes in a larger surveillance ecosystem. So today we examine the Midwest flashpoint, competing Illinois bills with committee deadlines approaching looks like next week, April 24th of this year, a high-profile vendor exit in Bloomington, Indiana, and emerging drone integration. Oh, awesome. We're going to have drones. We'll hear from two archetypes, the law enforcement chief arguing for public safety and impartially, and the private advocates or the civil rights attorney focused on data sovereignty and overreach. Our goal, understand the real trade-offs without easy slogans. So we're going to do one that's kind of for this and one that's kind of against this, and we'll leave it up to you guys on whether you think that Constitution is better or Big Brother's better. Hang on, we'll be right back.
The curtains rise, the lights burn bright. You're blinded now, can't see the fight. Smoke and mirrors, they lead the way. Don't ride overnight. Fooling hearts night after day. Slow. Welcome to the show, it's all pretend. The smiles, the lies, the perfect end.
All right. Welcome to Breaking the System. This is episode 55, and it is the Digital Dragnet, Convenience versus Constitutionalism. And it's this whole idea of, do we want Big Brother, do we want big government more in our lives, or do we want constitutional freedoms to come and go as we please, right? Some say that safety is worth it. Others say that the Constitution is worth it, okay? So let's look at both sides, okay? And so let's look at the chief, right? And so, like I said, we're going to do two different perspectives. One's from the chief's perspective. It's the proponent, or the person that's for this idea. And then we'll look at the skeptical or the rebuttal, the person that is against this, okay? So the chief, surveillance technology like Flock's ALPR systems is fundamentally objective. It uses algorithms to read plates without the human biases that can color traffic stops or field observations. In his recent TED Talk of 2026, Flock CEO Garrett Langley highlighted how data-driven tools deliver rapid, unbiased, such as the 21-minute capture success stories where integrated systems locate suspects, recover stolen vehicles, or find missing persons far faster than traditional methods. This isn't about watching everyone, it's about solving real crimes efficiently and keeping officers and communities safer. Well, that sounds amazing, right? Who would not want to be able to locate criminals faster, to locate stolen vehicles faster, or maybe even safer, maybe watch them from afar so people don't get hurt, so officers don't get hurt, and then also to be able to find missing persons faster, right? Because the missing persons, time is always against them, right? So it's you want to catch them within like the first 24 or 48 hours. So all of those things sound really nice, right? So they paint this beautiful picture, okay? Let's see what the skeptics say, okay? So the camera hardware may be neutral, but the policies governing it are not. Agencies can populate quote-unquote hot lists with vehicles flagged for non-criminal reasons, administrative issues, welfare checks, or vague suspicions, sometimes without strict expiration or case linkage. Even objective data collection risks mission creep when it builds searchable historical records of routine movements. Who decides what goes on those lists? Great question. What oversight prevents administrative or political flagging? And objectivity in the tool doesn't guarantee impartially in how the data is used or how that data is retained. Okay, so far both sides are showing very compelling for and against, right? And so is bias truly removed or simply shifted upstream to the humans who set the rules, right? Or populate the databases or decide retention periods? Because remember, as of right now, AI is ran by the algorithm that we program it, or the parameters that we define, and it lives within inside that bubble. Okay, so the question is, who is outlining the parameters for that AI to live inside? And that's very, very important. Okay, so let's look at the Illinois tug of war. This is the SB 3257, which is the Senate bill, and the HB 5231, which is the House bill. Okay, so as of mid-April 2026, two competing visions of ALPR regulation remain stalled in committee, with procedural deadlines creating urgency. So let's look at the Chief of Police's vision, and this comes from the Senate Bill 3257. This bill amends the Illinois Vehicle Code to allow law enforcement agencies to retain ALPR records or detention records for up to 5 years, with archiving protocols after 90 days for older data. This creates a practical historical database for investigative leads, helping connect patterns in cold cases, cross-border crimes, so between states, and ongoing probes. So those cases that are still active. Okay, short retention might sound protective, but it limits utility when serious investigations need time to develop. So once again, they want to collect this data so that they can go back, and they want to archive it so they can go back and maybe they can look at something that maybe they missed or another person missed, or right, to get a fresh eyes on the data itself. Okay, so here's the skeptic version, and this is the House Bill 5231 with a provision. So the House Bill 5231 focuses on stricter procurement rules and approved systems, with privacy advocates pushing for much shorter purge timelines, often 21 days, to minimize risks or stalking, abuse, or unwarranted long-term trafficking of innocent drivers. The state also wants limits on out-of-state agencies searching Illinois collected data. It's about creating a quote-unquote safe haven, ensuring cameras in Illinois aren't used to enforce laws or priorities that aren't crimes here. Protective state sovereignty over resident movement. So there's a balanced discussion point here. Providing retention or longer retention supports historical analysis and serious crime work, but expands the potential for profiling everyday travel. And these are questions that we have to be asking ourselves. Do we want profiled to and from work, to and from the grocery store, right? I know I don't. I know the government has been held accountable for profiling in the past. So if they've done it in the past, you know that they're going to do it again in the future, right? And so that's one of the arguments here that they're making. Shorter purges prioritize minimizing abuse, but could hinder complex investigation. Underlying both, master service agreements with vendors often limit full local transparency or FOIA style access, shifting some control away from elected officials and the public. Past friction over external and including federal access underscores this safe haven push. So basically, we have to be very careful of who we're letting in on this data. For how long do they have it? When are they getting it? There's a lot of risk that comes with this. And this has been an underlying push for people that are for constitutional laws and that we're not limited, and in not having the government be Big Brother, and in saying that we don't need cameras everywhere to watch us all the time. But the opposite of that is, if we had Big Brother watching everything, would crime go down? Would we be able to record the criminals and have the criminals locked up faster? Those are both really compelling arguments on both sides. Okay. Let's look at the Bloomington breakup. On April 15th of this year, Bloomington, Indiana announced it would not renew its Flock contract. Remember, Flock is a company, okay? And so you can look all of this up. So it did not renew its Flock contract, which expired March 5th. Mayor Carrie Thompson cited the need for better balance among public safety, for privacy protection, for transparency, accountability, and public trust after a months-long evaluation. The city is limiting data access to local police during the transition and exploring alternatives. Okay? So, at least they're keeping the public's perspective in mind, and they're just not doing what government does and do whatever the hell they want to do, right? And so the chief of police, this is what he's saying. This wasn't a blanket rejection of the technology. The mayor and council didn't say no to ALPR tools outright. They said no to continued reliance on this specific vendor and its ecosystem. Cities can and do deploy these systems responsibly with tighter local policies, using them as targeted investigative aids rather than broad nets. Once again, who has access to it? What are they doing with the information? Who's making the bubble that the AI lives in that's controlling this system, right? Okay. And so here's our skeptic. The decision highlights deeper concerns. Bloomington had been sharing data across Indiana law enforcement networks. By stepping away from the national Flock web, because the Flock company is nationally, okay? Keep that in mind. So they stepped away from the national Flock web. The city is questioning whether these are truly local security tools or infrastructure nodes feeding a broader surveillance system. Big Brother. Exiting forces the issue. Data ownership sounds straightforward, but integration and default sharing features make opting out very complex. It also raises question about HOA or community cameras potentially bypassing elected oversight. So those awesome little doorbells that we like to see when our Amazon package comes and when the mailman delivers and who's outside our door, can these companies gain access to that data? Oh, absolutely. And what are they going to do with it? That's what we have to be asking. That's a big question, okay? Not only can they access that, which they can and they do, but what are they going to be doing with that material once they have it? Or why would they want it to begin with, right? Why would they want my camera on my doorbell, right? Unless they're watching me. Okay. And so here's the Trojan horse angle. Is the value primarily local and immediate, or does the networked model turn every camera into part of a larger, harder to audit grid? Okay. Now, keep in mind, very skeptical, okay? Very tinfoil hat. But do you guys remember in the Batman movie where he uses basically the cell phones and the towers to create this kind of Big Brother system to where Batman knew where the criminal was and what the criminal was doing so that he could stop the criminal before the criminal done criminal things, right? And that's the underlying part of it, right? And so for those of us that are skeptical, for those of us that do wear a tinfoil hat at times, right? What they put in certain movies is to basically get us ready for what's going to happen in the future, right? So we're not just like surprised, right? They push it out there so it becomes mundane. It's every day. It's right in our face, okay? And so that's just one example of how this could be a Trojan horse, how on record by the book, it might not be described as Big Brother, but we always have to ask, could it be used as Big Brother? Okay? And remember, once government is in your back pocket, once government becomes a part of your life, they're not going to give that up. Okay? Just keep that in mind. It's not like they've raised taxes and then like, oh, we took too much taxes. Here's some money back for free. And this year we're not going to collect taxes. That doesn't happen, right? There's always something else that they want, okay? So let's look at a drone as a first responder. And this is kind of cool. Some of this is really kind of cool. And this is the 2026 frontier. Like this is stuff that's just on the precipice, the cusp of happening. So building on-ground bases, ALPR, Flocks Drone or First Responder, the DFR, I always like to give everything an acronym, systems integrate alerts. On the ALPR hit, gunshot detection or 911 call can auto-launch a docked drone from a rooftop or a station, delivering real-time aerial video in seconds, with claims of 86 seconds response time in some deployments. So we're talking in the cities, okay? Chicago, St. Louis, New York, okay? Your suburbs is probably going to be a little longer. You're probably looking another maybe 5 to 10 years before some of this gets implemented in some of your smaller towns, okay? Or if your town is so small, it might not even get implemented at all. But these features include high-speed flight up to 60 miles per hour, thermal and low light imaging, and a tight ecosystem integration. So it knows the layout of the land. It knows where the buildings are. It knows where signs are. It knows where to fly in and around. And that's all built in within this AI ecosystem that these drones are fed. Okay. And so the chief of police, this is his take on it. This keeps officers safer by providing situational awareness before ground response. It can de-escalate situations, confirm details remotely, like a missing person, and reduce high-speed chases. In an era of staffing shortages, because we've, defunded the police, think about it, it's a practical force multiplier that enhances response without putting people in unnecessary risk. Which I agree with. I totally agree with that. Like, let's not put people in an unnecessary risk, okay? Here's the skeptics of this. It risks evolving into persistent aerial surveillance. A routine plate hit could trigger a drone that follows a vehicle home or lingers overhead without individualized suspicion or a warrant. Layered with ground ALPR networks, it contains or creates continuous multi-angle trafficking of public movements. The line between targeted first responder aid and always an overhead monitor is thin, especially when combined with other data streams. And how many times have we seen this, once again, in our movies, whether if it's a big blockbuster or if it's on Paramount or Netflix or whatever, right? They use their keyboards and they hack into the mainframe and they can virtually watch whatever this suspect is doing. Do you want that on you 24/7? That's a good question, okay? So here's our broader link. These developments sit alongside stalled proposals like the House Bill 4414, which is the handgun ammunition serialization tracking requirements, which is a bunch of BS, right? They want handgun ammunition to be serialized and tracked. Who's buying it, where are they buying it, how much are they buying it, how often are they buying it, right? Okay, different topic for a different time, but don't even get me started on that. And re-referred to the Rules Committee. Critics see parallel movements towards centralized registries of lawful activities. Supporters frame them as targeted practical safety measures. So once again, could you become targeted? Like just because they suspect you of doing something, like you're up at weird hours of the night and you're driving on weird roads and like you're not going to work and you're not going to the store, like what are you doing? Well, it's my God-given right to drive around and do whatever, as long as it's within the law. I'm free to drive on the roads as long as I'm driving within the law, right? And so that's a big argument for this, because if they think, not that you've done something wrong, and so like this goes back to that one movie where I think it was Tom Cruise. I forget the name of it. Like the Minority Report. I think that's what it was. Where if they suspect you of a crime before you've ever committed it, they can arrest you. Right? And so if they suspect you of a crime by watching you 24/7, like where is my constitutional rights in this? Apollo? The dog barking. And so that's something that we have to be thinking about. Are they taking this too far to where it gives Big Brother the power that they need, but they sell it to you in a nice little beautiful package with glitter and a bow, and it's so sparkly, and it's like, oh, I would love to have that package. Like, what's in the package? Well, it's Big Brother. Okay? All right? That's how they can sell you this. Okay? So here's our closing critical thinking question that I want you to think about, okay? Where should the line be drawn between convenience for public safety and constitutional expectations of privacy? It's a big one. It is a big one. Convenience for public safety and constitutional expectations of privacy. With Illinois committee deadlines looming around April 24th, so that's next week, what guardrails would best balance both sides? So if we like this, if we like the doorbell, the Ring doorbell and the Google doorbell, if we like having cameras on all of our cell phones, like, let's be honest with ourselves. Big Brother is already out there. He already exists. He's already watching you. Right? Supposedly every camera that's on every laptop and every computer and every TV that's built in with the chips, they can watch us. They know what we watch. They know what we buy, right? It's part of the system. And I'm not trying to freak you out, okay? But we have to be asking the critical questions. When is enough enough? And how much of this are we willing to sell to ourselves as safety? Okay? Because that's the beautiful little package that's wrapped up in a nice little bow. Okay? So, those are our critical thinking questions. I hope you guys enjoyed the new intro that we put in. We're still working on some stuff, and by we, I mean me. I do all of this all by myself. Okay? If you like it, hit like, hit subscribe, share it. If you don't like it, tell me why. I want to know why you don't like the show. I want to know why you don't like the podcast so I can make corrections, right? I want to give you something that's straight down the middle, that's for both sides, so we can all come together and we can have dialogue and we can talk and we can critically think about things that is affecting us every day, day in and day out. So with that, this is Breaking the System. I'm your host. God bless. Good night. And we'll see you guys next time. I'm out.